How are you doing after that full super moon? I have found the trend lately is that I get so full to the brim with these full moons, or at least the most recent full moons, that I can't get my clarity together to share with you until after the full moon. Maybe that'll shift, but right now it's everything I can do to participate in those days. And I forget every single time. I forget that here comes the full moon and like I should batten down the hatches, that I should get ready for some sort of, maybe not external storm, maybe it's an internal storm, but these last ones have been big. This time for me, it was outer circumstances, and it was just like one weird thing after another. I had called to have a fuel tank filled, and then got a call saying, "Oh, we can't. The tank is no longer in regulation, so you'll have to change that." And it just came out of left field for me. I wasn't expecting it at all. And there were several things like that happened this week, which were way outside of normal expectation of operating procedures. What is going on anyway? I can only guess that you are like me. And at times you wonder, what is going on here anyway? I mean, this is the heart of inquiry, isn't it? If I can, for a moment, shift my point of perception, and even if that's not truly possible, if I can get out of my own perspective and like try on the costume of a different, like put your face in the mask of someone else's perspective. If we can shift, if I could shift my inquiry point and include something that I hadn't yet considered, that opens up some truly adventurous thinking, doesn't it? Hi, I'm Ann Headley. This is my podcast, What is Going On Anyway, where I take a look every 2 weeks at the moon cycle and what it means for me as an imaginative, intuitive artist. And I share that with you, hoping that it inspires a kind of inner revolution of seeing things differently and wondering about the world. I'm especially interested in spirituality, my own and others, and I'm really curious about the question, what is the meaning of life? So what I'm wondering here about this moon is, what kinds of nonsense did this bright, illuminated super moon in Gemini illuminate for you? Like, what did you see this week? Was it a personal seeing, a social seeing, a political seeing? And I'm talking specifically about the nonsense that you saw, because I'm curious about, we all have a perspective. We all have a point of view. That's part of being in a body, having a particular point of view. And this dear spiritual friend of the family, Cora, used to say, everyone is like somebody with one hand on an elephant. And they think that's all that there is. But the person holding the tail has a reality that's different than the person holding the trunk. So it's not possible, it's not the point for us to be able to see more than our perspective. But the cool thing about being a human is that we're social creatures, so we share with each other. And if we could use our imagination to widen our curiosity, then I could yell over to the person holding the trunk and ask them what they feel without arguing with them and telling them that what they are feeling is not real because it doesn't match what I'm feeling or perceiving, right? And so I want to suggest something radical. What if we could recognize what we consider to be nonsense and hold our points of view as valid. Like you're seeing it as nonsense because it's not jiving with something in you. And I think it's important to understand that the things that we see as nonsense are easier to perceive than the things that we agree with. So we don't question sometimes the things that we agree with as much as the things that we don't. And so it's like that Byron Katie work of using your judgment, because your judgment really pops out. It's like the most clear thing that you can understand. And if you use it and turn it around for insight and clarity, then you can really use the ability that you have to like differentiate around it for your own understanding. Does that make sense? Like if I have a judgment about my friend, she doesn't ever clean up after herself, right? And I use that judgment and I say, is it really true that she doesn't ever clean up after herself? Well, no. When you use ever, you know that you're exaggerating. And what if I turn that on myself and say, I never clean up after myself? How does that feel? And you keep looking around the edges to find the place that feels the most true. And this is not a real judgment. I should use a real one, but I'm not that brave right now. Just using an example. Oftentimes when you start flipping it around, is it true? Is it not true? Is it also true for me? I start to feel the truth of my own discomfort with my level of cleanliness in this case. Like maybe I don't really clean up after myself. If no one's looking, I don't really clean up after myself. I'm kind of slobby when I don't think anyone's looking or anybody could possibly look. You leave me alone at home for a whole weekend, my sink will be full most of the time, unless I'm eating takeout, right? So back to this idea of the elephant. The radical thought is, what if I really believed that what I'm sensing and perceiving about life and the world is correct? And also the person on the other side of the elephant that has a completely different perspective, that what they're sensing and feeling through their being is also correct for them. And that you're both perceiving correctly. Something that, it's Byron Katie again. Something that she says a lot is, if I was thinking and feeling what this person that I'm holding judgment is thinking and feeling, I would behave the same way. It's sort of a theorem that you can't unprove. And I guess what I'm hoping for is that this idea of letting people think and believe whatever they think and believe, so that you're free to do the same, offers a softness and a tenderness and a sweetness that is actually necessary to be brave enough to be who you are in the world, to be who I am in the world. I need to offer that same kind of kindness outwardly so that I can also offer it to myself, so I can practice offering it to myself. Because we want to be able to question our thoughts and beliefs, and that's a scary business. It's really challenging to think differently than we think and to expand our curiosity, to wonder, who would we be in different circumstances? How would we act? And it's really opens to compassion as well, and realize that most people are doing the best they can with what they have at any
Okay, I have to
moment.
interrupt myself here. I was going down a hole that I have no capacity to get myself out of. And I was looking down that hole and thinking it would be a good idea to jump. And it's not really the direction I want to go. I don't want to talk about classism and racism. I think they're important things to talk about, but I'm trying to get somewhere else with this. So we are a week after that full moon that was so intense for me. I needed to have this whole week to process before I could get back and finish talking about it. I did record and then got a migraine. And these days, I don't feel the same level of intensity around pressuring myself to do things. I think that maybe that has to do with menopause. Maybe it has to do with age. So here I am. I'm not that relaxed about it. I feel every day I'm like, get back to it, go edit and publish this and get it done, because before we know it, this new moon is going to come. And I'm hoping that the new moon makes it, brings a little bit of ease, which for me, that seems to be the pattern. I get a little bit of ease, a little bit of a fresh start, a jump start, a direction to go. But what I wanted to come back to, not so much talking about poor, rich, white, black, classism, racism, hierarchical thinking. I'm still constantly coming back to when you step outside of that sort of, we'll call it the rat race. Who are you? Same question. Who are you when no one's looking? It's so embedded to just reach for the next thing that it's really hard to step back from that, for me, to just wonder, what do I want? And I'm terrified that I might not want anything. I mean, honestly, when I'm feeling lazy and useless and like I just tell myself the worst things. You always say the same thing over and over and over again. It's boring. Nobody wants to hear it. When I'm in that kind of cycle and I'm asking myself the question, what do you really want? It's such a difficult question to address just from myself to myself that it's almost like I would do anything to avoid confronting myself, my true self. And I just wonder if that's the same for most of us. So there's this busy work of living. And then there's the internal spiritual work of really discovering who is our spirit. And the closest I can get to this is to ask myself who I was as a very young child and who I was before I thought I had to be something other than just the living, breathing, exploratory, learning creature. This is part of why I love the concept of lifelong learning, that learning is a constant part of living, that we don't just matriculate into some mastery and then do that on repeat for the rest of our lives. So I'm wondering about what is the lifelong learning here around discovering what we really, really want to be curious about. So it's really easy to just look into the world and see the ways that we ourselves and other people choose occupations that make us miserable. I find that so depressing and sad. And then choosing, artists choosing their art and also being miserable because it's impossible to survive and make a living that way. It's impossible to make enough money to meet basic needs. So we'll abandon that path. And then we'll abandon the idea that we could find meaningful work. And of course, there are people who have figured this out. I can't tell you who. I don't have a good model right here in front of me. I mean, I think about, since we're in Maine, I think about Helen and Scott Nearing, and they called it the good life, and they figured out what they needed to survive, and they had 4 hours of work each day, which was called their bread labor, and then the rest of the day was to be occupied however one wanted to. However, if you dig into the Helen and Scott Nearing story,
you don't find bliss and utter happiness. You find a lot of difficulty and conflict, and people didn't always get along. And I don't know that there's a utopian answer to anything. And I still think it's worth the reaching for answering those questions internally, not finding someone who has the answers. I don't believe in gurus, external gurus anymore. Although I sure did. I sure wanted someone. Guru Mai, oh God, why didn't she save me? Why didn't she come give me all the answers, you know? I'm not trying to get controversial about anything right now. That's the last thing that I want to do. But I still want to go back to this idea that we are going to want, and this is the part about not blaming the rich for being rich, that we all want and we all desire, and it's part of the engine of curiosity and learning, I think. And so when we say turn those gears off of wanting and desire, I think then we slow down our curiosity and we slow down our learning, and I'm wanting to find a way to responsibly work with my own desire. Such a scary thing, and all of human history, you can look at examples of really wanting to control desire. One person, one population, this is where I get stuck. Okay, this is where I don't want to do the research. I don't want to be a history lesson here. I'm really just trying to get to this idea that given that I will want as part of my human experience, if I really understand that wanting and desire is the same thing as breathing, drinking, eating, could I get more and more friendly with that, with my own self? And as artists, and I'm including everyone here, we know that we can enjoy a practice immensely, and then it leads us down pathways to other practices. We aren't practicing our artistry in order to stay still. Even if we did the same hand work over and over and over again, something is changing inside of us. And that's why we keep coming back to working through different ways of expressing creativity. And I think this is what lifelong learning looks like. And I'm wondering, what if we got a little bit easier about it, knowing that there will always be something else there will always be a horizon. And it doesn't mean that we need to get to that horizon, but having fluid, having a grounded and flexible relationship with ourselves in space, knowing that that horizon is informing our current location. That seems to me like a kind of balance that I would like to achieve. Not the running after the horizon, but the sensing it and using it as a kind of, I want to say geolocation, and I do mean that because we are bodies on Earth, and so we want to know where we are. And it seems particularly poignant right now when we spend so much time in this virtual world. And I don't want to say don't do that. I'm really uninterested in restrictions. I'm so curious about who we are expressing our freedoms. And we can get all up in arms about not having the political freedom that we think that we must have, or that we have already gained and has been taken away from us. And then there are these inner freedoms that we don't even touch the edges of. And I wonder about that. What is it to be free? And just I'm practicing that with this podcast. I am free to do the podcast or not to do the podcast. I'm really not responsible to anyone but myself. And I feel myself creating these restrictions around it. What it has to be, what I'm responsible to. And so my freedom becomes limited. It's a self-imposed limitation. And I'm just wondering for myself, how do I break free of that? Who am I if I'm free? I'm so frightened that I'm going to find that I'm just a slug, that actually I'm a slug, and that I don't want to be a slug. I want to be something else. Maybe I should just love the slug. I have no answers. Let's turn to our good friend, the I Ching. How about? We get 17 following. This is not the first time we've ever gotten following. Honestly, I'm a little tired of it because I think it sort of means like, you're on the right path, just keep going. And I'm tired of it because I feel like I want more insight. I want more than that. But here we go. How are things flowing and how can you move with them? Where are you being nudged and guided? Things are flowing poorly and how can I move with them? It feels like mud moving. So maybe the answer is we wallow. This is the time to wallow in the mud. And that's how I feel sometimes, especially after having COVID not too long ago. I get tired really easily. And I do feel that sort of like wallowing along. And, how do I move with them? Slowly. Maybe that's the answer that I'm not wanting to hear, because I'm wanting, I'm prioritizing progress and action and doing. How are you being nudged and guided? I feel like I'm being nudged to be kinder to myself, to let things go more easily, to relax, love myself more. I kind of hate that because it is a simple solution. It is a simple solution. And it feels like I've got this little army inside of me that says that is not how it's done. You will get in line and we will force you to behave. Energy flows strongly into life's landscapes, bringing a great creative drive from the source through towards fulfillment, right? I believe that. That's what I was talking about. This creative drive, it's in us. It's part of us. Following it means a willingness to honor the flow and align actions with it. You can know your ideal and then allow it to meld with the natural current, following signs and nudges and allowing them to draw you onward. Then you may experience following as an effortless flow of supportive synchronicities, or you may experience it as events unfolding in accordance with their own schedule and failing to keep yours. Right? It can seem as if simply allowing yourself to be guided by the current is not enough. And you ought to be, this is in quotes, doing something. But moving with the creative process is not a mistake. So this might be a slow time for me. Maybe it is for you. We do get a changing line, line 4. Following makes a catch. Constancy, pitfall. With truth and confidence, holding to the path with clarity, how can this be wrong? I don't even know. I don't know. I think that constancy pitfall is, if I keep doing things the way I've always done them, that is a bit of a pitfall. That's a bit of the hole I'm looking down. I don't have the resources to get myself out of that hole. Following with truth and confidence, holding to the path with clarity, how can this be wrong? Even if the path is a little bit of mud wallowing right now. It all moves to Hexagram 3, which is very generous. Sprouting. What is beginning? Where is the growing center, and where can you find help for it? I do think this is the moment, as we go into the darkest time of the year, where it's okay to reach out a hand. It's okay to be adjacent to people, putting yourself in places without forcing yourself to do so, but putting yourself in places where you could find companionship, you could find commonality. There are online places for this. There are real life places for this. I think it's a moment to, I don't want to say push, but it is a moment to allow yourself to be held by community, by the social way that we are as human beings. Be open to that. That's it. Whoa, this was a hard one to get out. So I'm so happy that you made it all the way to this point with me. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really looking forward to this new moon. I usually am, but I'm really looking forward to that sense of, I feel like a precision about knowing next steps. That's not how I feel right in this moment, but I'm hopeful that by the time we get forward into this new moon, there's a sense of, look, I'm sending cards out to people this year. Haven't done it in 20 years, but I have 3 people I want to send a card to for this darkest time of the year. Something like that. Not big plans, but just some clarity around the smallest of things. I hope. Thank you for being here. As always, you can reach out to me at my website, www.annhedley.com. That's ANNHEDLY. Until next time, may you be well, and may you know peace, and may all beings everywhere, whether known to us or not, may they be well, and may they know peace. Bye for now.